What's going on, everybody? Tom here with Black Sheep Keto, and welcome to another recipe video just for you subscribers out there. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider doing so. Now today I want to show you guys how to make a delicious keto sour cream and mushroom meatball. Now these aren't the type of meatballs that you'd be putting over pasta. That's kind of a misconception that meatballs are exclusively eaten with a sauce over pasta. These are a delicious dish on their own. Picture it as a seasoned ball of meat covered in a delicious gravy. So if that sounds good to you guys, hang on tight and let's get right into the recipe. Alright everybody, welcome to this recipe for our delicious keto sour cream and mushroom meatballs. Now you'll see in front of me the ingredients for the meatball portion, and we'll get the sauce portion going a little bit later. But let's go through all of these real quick and then we'll get going. So right here I have 1 pound of ground beef. This is just some chuck steak that I ground myself. We've got 1 egg, 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Use grated, not shredded. Then we've got a 1/2 teaspoon of your favorite Italian seasoning and a 1/4 teaspoon of pink salt. And right here, I have a teaspoon of olive oil that we're just gonna use to stop things from sticking to our pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump that in right now. And go ahead and get this heating up over a medium heat. Awesome. Now while that heats up, we're gonna go ahead and start on our meatballs. So I've got my pound of beef right here, and we're just gonna add everything. So our egg, our grated Parmesan, our Italian seasoning, and our salt right in there. And now we're just gonna go in there with our hands and go ahead and mix this up. You don't wanna pack it, you kind of more want to fluff it, but everything should mix together fairly well. Now as a note, you don't necessarily need the egg. The egg is not really binding it together as much as the cheese does that, but the purpose of the egg is I feel like you get a lighter, fluffier meatball when you actually have egg in there versus when you don't. Now here we have a handy scale that measures in ounces, and we made sure we hit that tare button so that it does have 0.00 reading on there. Now we're gonna go ahead and measure out roughly 2-ounce balls. Again, with this, you don't wanna go too large, otherwise you're gonna have to bake them, and I really hate using more dishes than I have to. So go ahead and get them about 2 ounces, that way we can cook them in a pan without much trouble. Again, if they get too large, you may have to bake them. Awesome. So now as you guys can see, all of the meatballs are here in this pan, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and put a lid on it real quick. And this part's gonna take a minute, so I'm just gonna jump ahead. But basically, every 2 to 3 minutes, I'm gonna flip them, and that's gonna be a total of 6 times, since we're gonna basically treat these as like a 6-sided cube. You wanna lightly crisp each side of them, and then having the lid on there when you're not flipping them is actually gonna help cook it from all sides. Since these are relatively small meatballs, they should cook in the pan without a problem. So I'm gonna get that taken care of, and I'll catch up with you guys as soon as these are cooked all the way through. Alright, as promised, I am back, and the meatballs here are pretty much done if you go ahead and take a look at them there. They have a nice kind of golden brown color on pretty much all sides. Guys, it's never going to be perfect. They're never going to turn into that perfect cube, but at the end of the day, just crisp up as all sides as best you can and make sure that they're cooked all the way through. So now I'm going to transfer them to a plate here. And then we're going to go ahead and set these aside for later. Now I've reduced this heat to about a medium-low, and we're actually going to use this to kind of cook up the rest of our sauce and use the delicious flavorings there from the dripping to flavor it a little bit more than we normally would. So what I've got going on here is I've got 1/4 of a medium onion, 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms, use whatever kinds you want. Then we've got a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1 clove of garlic, a 1/2 cup of sour cream, a 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of pink salt. But first of all, we're just going to start off with the mushrooms and the onion going in here until the mushrooms are nice and tender and the onions are basically transparent. So let's get that going. Alright everybody, those mushrooms are looking quite tender to me, so we're going to go ahead and add in our garlic. The reason we didn't add this in with the rest of it is because these mushrooms and onions take a little while to cook, and we wanted the garlic just to be put in on the tail end so it doesn't burn. And we're just going to give that 30 seconds to a minute for the garlic to kind of become a little bit more fragrant. And at this point, we're just going to add in our salt and pepper as well. Now go ahead and give that a quick stirring. Then we're going to add in that heavy whipping cream and the sour cream. There's no real science to this part. Just go ahead and start mixing until the sour cream, the heavy cream, and the mushroom mixture all become incorporated into a nice sauce. As a note, I'm doing this over medium-high heat because this hot plate that I'm using runs a little bit colder than a stove. So if you're using a stovetop, go ahead and run it at probably medium heat. Now at this point, our sour cream and mushroom gravy is done, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my meatballs back in. You may notice that we are missing a few meatballs here, and that's simply because Olivia is allergic to mushrooms, and this is exactly what we're having for dinner, so we set some aside without the gravy for her. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and add those back in and go ahead and give them a quick stirring. And just like that, everybody, we have our finished product. Now, it may look like there's a lot of sauce here, and again, just remember that there are meatballs missing that would kind of offset that balance a little bit. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and put the finished product on the screen right now, and then I'll catch up with you for the taste test. All right, everybody, now that you've seen the recipe and the finished product, it is time for the taste test. So on this plate right here, I have one of our delicious meatballs smothered in some of that awesome sour cream and mushroom gravy. So let's go ahead and give it a taste. Make sure I get plenty of gravy and mushroom on there, and let's give it a bite. That is absolutely fantastic, everybody. Now, the meatball has a nice little bit of sponginess to it before it gives and breaks down super easily. You definitely get a little bit of creaminess from the sauce, but it has a slight saltiness to it, which I'm a huge fan of. And of course, there's flavors of mushrooms through the entire dish. So that, to me, is the perfect meatball dish. If you guys like this kind of separating meatballs from pasta idea that we're going with here, let me know, and I have a delicious barbecue meatball recipe as well that I'd be happy to share with you. With that, if anybody's curious, the written recipes and macros are gonna be down in the description. I am gonna go ahead and close this video. So if you liked the video, leave it a like. If you have any questions or comments for me, leave them down in the comment section. And if you have not subscribed yet, do me a huge favor, guys, hit that subscribe button, show some love, and I will see you in the next one.